stream, I've had both Twitch and Chess24 chat open so that not to reopen it the next day. It's amazing. He was described, and once again, I understand I'm slightly taking it out on one, unsuspecting user who probably isn't even there right now. So I'm doing this behind his back potentially, which really isn't, what I intended. But Gukesh was described as, and the whole situation was described as a reality check to somebody who farmed 2500s. The man started 8 out of 8 on board 1 in the Olympiad.
He beat Caruana. He beat
farming 2500s. Excuse me.
Yeah, this is this is crazy.
Yeah,
crazy talk.
This is an absolutely horrendous overreaction to it. We have an anti-martial where Magnus, weirdly, he makes the absolute main move in this position, which in his hands is, not a novelty, but a bit of a surprise because he's been very much in the camp of not playing b5 before. Yeah. I'm guessing, believing these positions to be difficult to play for a win, and just kind of they do tend to simplify quite a bit, both the positions after d4 and arguably even these ones. But today he seems to be happy with it. He goes a4, b4, a5, not even any of the rook b8 silliness that Keimer did recently against Wesley. But the very straightforward d6. Fabi doesn't go d3. My guess as to why is probably because Magnus himself is a very, very serious player of this line, and I guess he thinks Magnus will know. c3, rook b8, h3. I don't think that works out quite as well as we like. So maybe you don't have very useful passes apart from rook b8 that Vincent chose.
Yeah, he's played a type of pass move in the game, slightly different position, of course. And I guess the question here for Fabi in the game position is whether d4 in one go is possible. h6 now by Magnus. He's basically saying, okay, you can play d4, and we're going, okay, d4 instantly blitzed out by Fabi. And yeah, it feels like white, if you don't challenge the setup now, white has achieved, well, a lot, simply. And black's not really chosen a typical Spanish reply.
Without access to knight c3, it will be actually kind of difficult to smoke this knight out. Yeah. It does appear to be quite stable. On e4 can be supported by bishop f5. If you go knight bg2, you have to at least calculate bishop b4 in some positions, probably not right here, but in some positions, definitely it could become playable. bc3 already on the board in the meantime. And just to finish our conversation about gambits, if I understand our chat correctly, d5 here, d6, c3, d5, e5, e4 has been seen before, and Livon, amongst others, has played this. Okay. But yeah, Magnus goes for something else. Fabi actually took with the knight and not the pawn here. I guess because if you tried doing the same, the knight on e4 could immediately perhaps be driven away, even though f5 is not a poor square. So I'm curious why this is unplayable. Maybe it is playable, and Magnus just likes bishop e7 more, which I can also very easily believe, because e5 will be a nice square for this piece, which it immediately assumes. Looks okay for black. Yeah, looks okay for black. Although you could also imagine white becoming a little bit worse if you don't. Better if you don't have a good reply to knight c4 next move.
Still feels like the onus is on black to prove the equality, like you say, knight c4.
Fabi versus Magnus. The maneuver we were expecting did happen, and Fabi reacted in a very concrete manner. He went bishop g3 and f4, and is now, I assume, considering going in with e5. Because generally you don't want to weaken your e4 pawn like this without having a very concrete idea how to justify it.
Yeah, I guess there's an argument for kind of maintaining the tension with moves such as bishop c2, but then does black break out somehow with d5?
Yeah, that's one thing.
If he breaks
out, I kind of hesitate to mention it, but it is a pawn.
Yeah,
I mean, queen d3. I guess we're not very worried. Yeah. Queen c2. Sorry, bishop c2 definitely. Repeat. Yeah, I apologize for doubting him for about 3 seconds. He did repeat once, but then yeah. Whoa, Magnus, very much on point today.
Yeah, nice spot by the Norwegian.
Mm-hmm.
So those variations we're mentioning are very relevant.
And once again, thank you to Jack Hound, who gave us an opportunity to be slightly ahead of the curve here and to start discussing it before Magnus put it on the board. Fabi did something very, very odd. The position wasn't great, but it wasn't really that bad. And he thought for a bit and played bishop c3, bishop b3, c2 here, which sort of loses on the spot, and not in a very difficult fashion either. Like extremely findable sequence of moves, which it's very difficult for me to explain. Starts with queen d5, which you cannot possibly blunder because
Very
it's
logical.
I guess he wants to play rook e2.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just attack the pawn on d4 and win it.
Okay. And the only calculation I guess you would need to do is e takes f6, rook takes d4.
No, I think the problem is I don't even understand what he means against this, to be honest.
Okay, this is even more simple.
Yeah, because I think what you're saying is also winning. Like rook d4, you cannot take on e8 because this is mate, so you have to play the queen somewhere. And this also looks utterly winning for black.
Are there any ways to complicate the issue even slightly?
Yeah, and queen d5 played in the meantime. Yeah, Magnus is not going to miss it, I don't think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, rook e2 blitzed out. Yeah, let's try to figure out if Fabi already sees what's happened or not. It's hard for him to judge. I mean, he does have a reasonably good poker face, but like the evaluation of all the normal moves, like knight h5 is fine, but white is very much alive after knight h5. Rook b8 is a massive advantage for black. Rook b4, you kind of resign because...
And he's played it.
Yeah, and the problem is, you just don't continue from here because this falls with the tempo. And then the knight comes to e4, absolutely collapsing all of your counterplay, and you're left with these really ugly pieces which make no sense together. This really is going to end very soon. There's not very much here to discuss. Fabi did find a way to generate one active move, because after knight h5, for instance, he will have the access to bishop b3.
Mm-hmm. Even this is nothing.
Yeah, but like queen d7 and
just everything falling apart.
Yeah, this is not really any kind of serious counterplay at all. Yeah, it's completely fine.
But Magnus likes to finish with a bit of artistic flair when he can. I'm just being told that rook d2 is also good immediately. Yeah. I was going to say, can we find some as well? Yeah, can we find some pretty checkmates somehow? Maybe rook d2 is the best way to start.
Decision here. He's gone knight e4. He actually he does this in one of two ways. Either if he does find it, he goes very much playing for the gallery. He goes for something beautiful and exciting and crowd pleasing. Or if he can't find it, he just says, okay, I will win some technical endgame. Yeah. Because knight e4, in order for white not to resign here, you have to take on e4 3 times. Everything else will lose you material, because this is a threat, Position is collapsing. So what he's saying to Fabi is, how enjoyable will you find the experience of continuing to play this endgame? Which is probably borderline lost without the pawn on c7, frankly.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult endgame without the pawn on c7. Maybe you can save, 3 out of 10 or something, but you're going to hate life even there. Mm-hmm. And with the pawn on c7 still alive, it's just very, very dead. Mm-hmm. They just give you maybe a semblance of hope somewhere.
Yeah.
So
it might go on a while at least.
Yeah. And he's actually gone for it. I was wondering if he will even continue, but I guess he doesn't want to give Magnus the satisfaction of winning in 25 moves.
Yeah.
So they'll play for a bit, but I really don't think we need to be covering this. We know the result. We know sort of the broad outlines of how it will be won. So it's not really all that important to show this. We'll show when the game ends. We got here, now. And now there's a pin along the c file. The only way not to lose material immediately, I think, is to play bishop f4. But unfortunately for Fabi, we go bishop d5, and wherever the knight goes, the simplest is just to play bishop b4, take on a5. And I don't think you actually continue 2 down. 1 down, maybe you can convince yourself to continue. 2 down, you don't really continue too much, because it's child's play to convert.
Yeah, this pin is just deadly. It looks over.
Yeah, otherwise bishop d5 just wins a full piece. So
yeah, I think we'll see Fabi resign. There's definitely no point kind of continuing here.
major rivals in this fashion is never fun.
Yeah, you can see on both the body language, the body language of both players as well. They expect it to not last too much longer.
No,
Bishop F4, Bishop D5, as you highlighted, and I think this exact variation we're likely to see.
Yeah, you can choose, like, you can also take on A5 with the rook after knight B6, but I think taking the rooks off and then winning the pawn on A5 is much cleaner.
Yeah.
Not allowing white any kind of rook C8, rook C7 check counterplay. It's still not really counterplay, but why give white anything that could be mistaken for counterplay? Looking a lot more manageable, and he does have a bit of a run up. 5 rounds to go, a point and a half behind the leader, and yeah, looks like they're signing the score sheets here. Yeah, Fabi finally resigns. Unsurprising, there really wasn't very much to play for anymore.